Hey folks, here's a little greens update. These are looking so good. And it just dawned on me that it's almost salad season, but I don't have a lot of different greens. I have not started my brassicas or spinach and chard, the other greens. And so that's what I'm going to do today. Get a couple more trays going so that salad season is very diverse and delicious. All right, so going to be working on spinach and chard and then some brassicas. So hopefully we'll get a couple of good crops. I'm going to work with brassicas first. I'm going to do mostly kale, and then I'll also do a little 6-pack of broccoli and a 6-pack of cabbage. I don't need much more than that since I'm the only one that eats it here. So here's some of my favorite varieties. This is a really, really nutritious leafy green that I got last year. It's Chijimisai, I think is how you pronounce that. I've got some bok choy, and then I have several different kales. And so I like to harvest kale when it's young and do like mixed leaves in a salad. But then also I plant it in the garden and let it grow to full size. And it pretty much grows until frost. So I'm looking forward to getting a big flat of these going. And so just like I usually do, I fill up the 6-packs with my cocoa coir mix. Cocoa coir that is mixed with perlite, and I just pre-moisten it there. I just recently moistened this here right before I got started, and so it's just damp enough so that it'll absorb water readily. That's what we're looking for. These 6-packs are really nice because they have really deep wells, and so I can keep them in here pretty much until I either harvest them directly or I'll plant them out in the garden. So plenty of room for their roots to spread out and grow. And I just like to press everything down just a bit, make sure that I didn't leave any air pockets. And as usual, I just write 6-pack here. All right, so the majority of the brassicas have pretty much the same instructions. Basically start seeds indoors 6 to 8 weeks before the last frost. And so we are about 10-ish, 12 weeks out from that point, but I like to start these a little early and get them quite large before I put them in the garden. And just like lettuce, most of the beautiful kales I can just harvest by the leaf until I plant them out in the garden, use those for fresh salads. And so this is what brassica seeds look like. Most of them look pretty similar. Sometimes they vary in color and slightly in size, but they're pretty much the same. And so I'm going to do 2 per cell, and that way I can transplant more if I need to. Just doing 2 of the early golden acre. I'm going to do 2 cells of the red rock cabbage. And again, I'll get to double these. So just limited space. I usually get really good germination with these, but just a couple. Actually, I'll put 3 in that one there. Then I'll make a few dishes. Now, Savoy, on the other hand, I really do love. And so Savoy has got that curly, if you're not familiar, curly bunched up. These are painted silver so that they're pretty noticeable. That's pretty common when seeds are rare, a little bit more expensive. They just don't get lost in the mix. And I don't have great germination rates with these, so I'm going to put 3 in each one. I'm going to be ordering some more this year for next year. Matter of fact, I've only got 2 seeds left, so I'll just go ahead and finish this one with these. They don't need covered up very much. Remember, the general rule is just 3 times the size of the seed in depth, but always consult the seed packet for specifics. Just put a light layer on that and repeat. I'm going to do 3 of these gypsies and then 3 of the sprouting calabrese. Just 2 per on these. Space them far enough apart just so that I can transplant them easily like I did the lettuces. I just love these colorful mixes of kale. All the colors represent different nutrients, which I love, but I mostly love the flavor and the texture, the color. It's just so fun to have these for fresh salads. And then when they get larger, I cook them just like other greens. And so I'll just do 2 or 3 per cell of these. That way I don't get too much. I don't know if too much is a thing when it comes to these. Anything I don't eat, I can give to the chickens. And lacinato, or dinosaur kale, one of my favorites. Some of these get actually about as tall as trees sometimes by the end of the season. I never have good germination with these. It doesn't seem to matter the brand I use. So I'm going to sow quite a few extra in hopes that I get plenty. All right, so then a layer of vermiculite. Helps keep everything moist. Also prevents algae from growing on the surface. I just learned this last year and it really helped. Dampen everything. I like to just dampen the top layer and then I'll water from below. This sort of settles everything into place and prevents the vermiculite's pretty dry, and so you can see it kind of blowing off, and so this will sort of settle it into place. The easiest way to water these, just make sure that it's a watertight tray. And so it's important to make sure that they draw in all the water. You don't want them sitting in water, and so usually I check back in about 10 minutes just to make sure that everything has absorbed, and so it just simply wicks everything up through these holes on the bottom. And then just using a humidity dome, and then I'll put these under the grow lights. My favorite spinach is this Tundra F1, and so I'm just going to do 3 whole 6-packs in this and sow them heavily, and that way I can transplant and have a whole tray later. These are larger seeds, so they're going to go a little bit deeper. I'd forgotten to tamp down the potting mix, so I had to stop for just a minute and do that. These are larger, so I want to make sure I get a good covering on those. So then I've got these, just discovered these last year. So I won't put a very thick layer on those. And then a little bit of bok choy, same thing. Swiss chard, I like to do these bright colors, and so I do harvest some as young leaf, but typically just put them in the garden, and they will grow till frost. They get huge and beautiful. Pretty tasty. So there's actually 2 or 3 seeds in each one of these little pots, so I don't plant them too heavily. Just a little update on the brassicas and the other greens that I sowed about a week ago. They're doing really well. The brassicas, of course, take less time to germinate, so they're up, but the kale is doing really well. We've got some rainbow chard in the back there, and so I plan to do a little bit of transplanting today. I like to plant them densely anyway so that I can transplant them out into another container, and that just minimizes resource use in the beginning. seed germination time, pretty critical temperature, moisture, and so I can do this a little bit more efficiently this way and then just transplant them into another flat. And so that's what I'm going to do today. I did that recently with my lettuce blends, and so today I'm going to do that with, these are bok choy. I love baby bok choy, so hopefully I'll have a bunch of those here. And these are very similar to bok choy. These are chijimisai, so these are related to wild mustard. And so I've got quite a few there. I grew these last year and they were just so tasty. All right, so when I begin transplanting, I just want to make sure that everything is well watered, both the receiving cell packs as well as the original seedlings. And that's just to make sure that any time spent out of the soil, that they are less likely to experience shock. And so just like in my last video, what I like to do is I just use the back of the fork to make a little well. You can use your finger, you can use a Sharpie, whatever's handy. This is just handy for me. So then I just take the fork. Simple, you just want to loosen that potting mix up just a little. It's coconut core blend. So just want to make sure not to pull too hard. You don't want to lose any of the root. You can see there, it's quite long, really healthy. Just want to plant it. Used to be they always said to plant everything right at the same depth at which it originally was, but we found that you can, with most plants, submerge them a little with no harm done. Just make sure not to leave any of the root exposed. And then you just want to firm back down the potting mix in your original cell. Hold everything in. And give this a little bit of water as well. Make sure everything's back in place. Good. And here's everything just a few days after transplanting. I now have 6 trays of lettuce. Don't judge me. So after everything grows just a bit, I put it under the big LED lights and put a fan directly on them. And I bumped the light cycle up to about 15-16 hours.